Football Outsiders gives them a mean projection of 9.7 wins for the season. They have them as a playoff contender 41.4% of the time. And again, this is the way that they consider a playoff contender. You will fall somewhere kind of in that 9 to 11 win range. And with that, they think that at least gets you in the playoff hunt. And so 41.4% of the time, they have them winning the Super Bowl 5.4% of the time. And I think with that is, in their calculations here is this division. And you're looking at it on your screen right now that if they were to win the Super Bowl, then they would have had to have a really, really good year against some pretty quality opponents because they play the 49ers, the Rams, and the Cardinals each twice because they play in this really tough NFC West Division. By
the way, it's all coming back to me with that playoff game. That was the one that Wolford started, and then got hurt, and then Jared Goff came in. It was all Cam Akers that day.
Yeah,
right.
It was a Cam Akers show. Eighth easiest schedule, according to Sharp Football. And again, this is based off of the opponent win totals going into 2021. Eighth easiest schedule, he has them projected at 9.5 wins and third in the division behind the Rams and the 49ers. Over at Pro Football Focus, they actually have them 10th in their power rankings entering the season, just as far as like the strength of what they believe this team is and can be. That being said, in their simulations, came out at 9.5 wins for this team. So there would be a little bit, tiny bit on the under there. If you go by, again, all the projection systems have them under where we sit right now at 10. On the offensive line, rated 19th heading into 2021. Russell Wilson, you mentioned about how many times he was sacked. Not only was he sacked that many times, Gil, he was sacked at least 3 times in 8 games.
Jeez.
Half the season, he was sacked at least 3 times in a game. And we talked about this several times over the course of last season, Russell Wilson running for his life. And, I mean, that really was kind of the case. You do have a left tackle in Dwayne Brown, who's been pretty rock solid for them since they got him in 2017. He was actually the 5th overall graded tackle in all the NFL last season. But the problem is there's other people on the offensive line. There isn't just one guy, and all the rest of those other guys don't rate out or grade out very well. Brandon Shell had his highest grade of his career, but the problem is the highest grade of his career still only put him slightly below average in the NFL. Damian Lewis is a guy that, is Pete Carroll's type of guy. He's the 5th best run blocking guard in the league, but he was 73rd out of 84 qualifiers in pass blocking, which again is why Russell Wilson is running for his life and taking so many sacks. They did pick up Gabe Jackson, as we mentioned, in a trade, and he's just an average guy, right? So it's one good offensive lineman and a bunch of average guys across the board. And I don't think when you look at this that it's going to be much better for Russell Wilson unless these guys make some drastic improvements, which they haven't really shown over the courses of their career. So, if you're thinking that life's going to be much easier for Russell Wilson this year, I don't see an easy path for that without these guys taking just massive leaps forward. The defensive line, and this was one of the things we harped on last year so much with the Seattle Seahawks team, they got absolutely no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. They're 29th headed into this season. They were one of the least pressured team, got the least amount of quarterback pressures out there. I mean, look, they've got Carlos Dunlap. They've signed Kerry Hyder. They've got some younger guys that are going to they get into the mix and try to see if they're able to do anything. But this team gets all of their pressure from one guy, which is Jamal Adams in the secondary. Like, all of their pressure comes from a guy not in their defensive line, not even in their linebacking core. It comes from, a guy in the secondary here. He had 29 quarterback pressures last year.
That was bizarre watching.
Yeah, he had 29. He didn't even play like every game last year either. He was out. I think he was injured for 4 different games. He had 29 quarterback pressures last year. That is 11 more than any other defensive back in all the NFL, and by far led this team in quarterback pressures as well. It's just very, very weird that's the way that they want to do this. And what they've done, I think, is it's probably cost them a lot in their coverage as well. I mean, Jamal Adams suffered a very, very huge drop-off in his coverage since he's been blitzing so much for this Seattle Seahawks team. Again, they did go sign Akella Witherspoon, who he's been up and down his whole career. Like, he's had a pretty decent season, and then he has like a horrible season. He's had a pretty decent season and another horrible season. So what they're going to get out of Witherspoon is really kind of up in the air. They don't really know what they're going to get out of this guy. Then they have a rookie in Trey Brown that they're probably going to have to rely on to play some serious snaps. So a fourth-round rookie that they're probably going to have to get some serious snaps in this secondary. I mean, Trey Flowers is a guy, if you've been following the NFL for a while, had a bunch of hype, has never really panned out either. And so when you look on the defensive side of the ball and you look in this division, I think this is a really bad division to not have quarterback pressure and not have very good coverage grade. Whenever you look, I mean, yes, I understand I'm not high on Jimmy Garoppolo, but there's still a massive amount of talent on that 49ers team. We know that there's a ton of talent on the Cardinals. We know there's a ton of talent on the Rams. And so if you're not getting pressure with your defensive line and you're not covering very well, and the only way you're actually getting pressure is blitzing, well, whenever you blitz, what does that do? That leaves, guys in one-on-one coverage and stuff. And look at the number one wide receivers in this division. We're talking DeAndre Hopkins. We're talking the Robert Woods of the world. We're talking, so for me, I'm looking at this team and I'm like, all right, best case scenario, I think it's like third in this division. I don't know how they get over the hump against this Rams team or even probably this 49ers team as well, who should be massively better on defense. Again, injuries, we're just assuming that they hold up. I mean, that was the thing about the 49ers team last year, was just all the injuries, why they were so bad. So
look at those odds, though.
I know.
Look at that.
The book is basically saying, yeah, we don't really know.
We don't know either.
And I kind of feel like Matt, I hear you. Russell Wilson is just one of those guys that I never count out. I will never count out.
I think that's what the odds reflect. I think that's all Russell Wilson.
I think it's all Russell Wilson.
Because if he's not there and it's your mere mortal, don't get me
wrong, those two wide receivers are disgusting now, too, at this point. I mean, DK Metcalf and Lockett are incredible.
Not to interrupt your flow here, Matt, but where do you stand? So Russell Wilson midseason last, they have this meeting, this famous meeting where Russell Wilson, before the meeting, had all these great stats. He was going to be the MVP. Kind of right at the moment that meeting happened, his stats fell off a cliff. Emphasis on running. Then this offseason, it was, hey, I don't want to be traded, but if I am traded, here are the 4 teams that might be okay with me. They what's the expression, under the bridge with that? That gets washed under the bridge. And I guess, they made nice, but they're all about establishing the run, which is like, okay, this is early 80s football.
They go give $10 million to Chris Carson to come back, by the way. So, they're obviously going to do it again.
So, you're right when you say, why would we expect a different sort of outcome?
I think, I think the 12-4 last year was just an extreme outlier, because as hurt as the 49ers were, as hamstrung as the Rams are by having Jared Goff as your quarterback, and it was year one of Kyler Murray really, kind of getting his flow there. And so now we're looking at more experienced Kyler Murray. We're looking at Matthew Stafford at quarterback for the Rams now. And now we're looking at a 49ers team that, again, barring staying healthy, when I was talking about the wide receivers in this league, I mean, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel for that team as well. Like, there's just all 3 teams should be exponentially better, whereas the Seahawks team, if anything, stayed the same, if not got a little bit worse, because they had people leave in free agency as well. They kind of, some of their key players, and you can say, well, DK Metcalf should be better as he matures. Yes, but if Russell Wilson again is running for his life all the time, it doesn't do any good.